Welcome to the Opinionated Benchwarmers podcast, episode 206. Your Opinionated Benchwarmers are back, and I'm your host, Rob. Make sure that you are subscribed to the podcast wherever you like to listen to your podcast at, and also subscribe to our YouTube. Just search Opinionated Benchwarmers. Make sure that you hit the bell, get subscribed when we drop content. Look, we appreciate all the love and support we've been receiving so far, and we're going to keep this thing going. I'm back with you just to touch on some football, just to recap last weekend, the division round of the playoffs, and also touch on some coaching moves that have been made. And I'm here to discuss some quarterbacks that I think one, their legacy may be in question so far, and another one, they may be a little bit overhyped. We'll get into that and more in just a minute. But I want to start off with the first game that we saw on Saturday afternoon, and that was the Bills and the Broncos. The Bills and the Broncos, that game obviously was decided 33-30. It took an overtime period for that game to be decided. But I think there was a couple things that stood out to me. Obviously, the Buffalo Bills with 5 turnovers, in which 4 of those turnovers were responsible for by Josh Allen. And as a former MVP, I think that his legacy may be a little bit in question. I think that he was on the top of everybody's list. He was one of the number one quarterbacks in the NFL, if not the number one NFL player in the league. But at this point, I don't know if you could quite put him there without him being able to get to the big championship game, without him being able to get past the divisional round. When you look at his legacy so far, he's 8-8 and 8-7 in playoff games, and he has yet to get to the Super Bowl. And when you look at the trajectory of his career, he's a talent. Nobody's questioning that. We know that he's the ultimate talent. However, if you're not able to get towards the big, if you're not able to get to the big game, then you have to question if his legacy is what it is. So right now with Josh Allen, I was one of the ones, if you listen back to the last episode, I had the Bills winning this game because of him, and I had them making a run because of him. But I think Josh Allen, we have to really take his career into focus. Is he the guy or is he not? He's a talent, and I do get that. But however, if he's not able to perform on platforms like this, then I got to set him back a little bit. So concerning that he had that many turnovers, he was responsible for 2 interceptions and 2 fumbles, and oftentimes he looked a little bit flustered and making the wrong decisions. So right now, the verdict's still out. I'm not writing him off. Obviously, he is a talent. The coach has been fired, McDermott, which we'll get into in a moment with the coaching move segment. But we have to see if, what's going to happen in his next career. But you got to think that the Buffalo Bills window is closing. They have that in the brand new stadium that should get opened up next season. And unfortunately, I don't know if the success is going to follow. I think that this team, if you look at it, has dropped off from the past 3 or 4 years that we've seen the success that they've had. But you have to question yourself, have we moved too fast in championing Josh Allen before he's accomplished anything? And I think that this was an example, a very disappointing loss by the Buffalo Bills, but an even more disappointing performance by Josh Allen. And as we move to the next game, that nightcap of Saturday night, the 49ers and the Seahawks, not much to talk about here. Obviously, the Seahawks steamrolled the 49ers 41-6. But I think, ironically, the subject is not how bad the 49ers were. We know that they had a bunch of injuries and they were limping into the playoffs. I think it's more of a reflection of who the Philadelphia Eagles are. At full strength, they were not able to play with the 49ers, and the 49ers just basically outplayed them on a lot of different avenues. I think that this offseason, the Philadelphia Eagles have a lot to figure out, and that's number one, their quarterback in Jalen Hurts. At times, he's shown that he can will this team to some wins, but I think that we have to look at his career, and I think that he's gonna have to expect himself to take a leap of development this year if they expect to go anywhere. AJ Brown, we need this dilemma to end. It's been a story since week 3 about how he didn't want to be in Philadelphia. Philadelphia chose to keep him, whether right or wrong. He's a talent, but I wouldn't let him go either. But when you think about the team and just their dynamic and just the culture there, it just seems very toxic. it's no reason for them to have Saquon Barkley, Devontae Smith, and AJ Brown, and the offense is not able to move, and the offense is just as inefficient as it has been all season and throughout the playoffs. So I'm interested to see what's going to happen there, but I think it's more a reflection of Philadelphia. You're not off the hook. The Seahawks did what they were supposed to do as the number one seed, but at what cost? Zach Charbonnet was reported that running back for the Seattle Seahawks was reported that he tore his ACL, so he'll be out for the rest of the playoff. Now, Ken Walker had a strong game, 19 carries, 116 yards. So he would definitely have to be the bell cow as they face the LA Rams in the NFC Championship. But at what cost? Rashid Shaheed, shout out to him. New Orleans Saint had the opening kickoff touchdown, and it was all she wrote. That game was never close. It was never a game. But the 49ers, you got to tip your hat to them. At what cost? Again, Robert Saleh was reported as the Tennessee head coach this past week, a couple days ago. So I'll talk about that in a moment. But hey, the 49ers tip they had, they limped into the playoffs. They was able to get to the divisional round and they fell short. And you would expect them to. They had honcho Fred Warner's on the sideline, along with five other starters, defensive starters that couldn't take the field. So you would expect them to lose like this. But the Philadelphia Eagles, they have to figure it out. So we'll move to Sunday. The Texans and the Patriots, 26-16, the Patriots took the game. And I get it, right? No Nico Collins, which is the number one receiver out in Houston, their number one weapon. Their offensive lineman was hurt, injured early on. Their tackle was hurt early on in that game, football game. But it's time to have a conversation about CJ Stroud here. And that's the note that I wrote down. In this game, he had 212 yards, he had four picks and a touchdown. He threw six interceptions this playoff run, only to go against two touchdown passes. The success that we saw in CJ Stroud his rookie year, we're still looking for it. And was his third season in the league. And I don't think that he's shown so far that he can be the guy. I do think that the talent is there. You can hear me, you can refer to the last podcast where I said I'm out on him, and I am out on him. But I think that he's gonna have to really take a look in the mirror. And the Texans, if they plan on getting past the divisional round, they're gonna have to rely on him to take another step of development forward in this offseason. I think along with Jalen Hurts and himself, they're going to have to look in the mirror and see if they can take the next leap. I think CJ Stroud has been one that, especially this playoff run out, even last game, he looks flustered. And I understand that he can't trust that offensive line. And when you look out, even with the Commanders, ironically, Laramie Tunsil was traded away from the Houston Texans off left tackle to the Commanders because the Commanders realize that they have a special talent in Jaden, a young quarterback, and they want to protect him. If you look at Caleb Williams, his rookie year, he had the offensive line had struggles. The Bears made a very deliberate effort to stack up their offensive line and adding Tooney and others to help him. And you see where they got the Bears at in the playoffs this year. So I do recognize that the offensive line has been issues, but I think that he has PTSD because he cannot trust that offensive line. There were times, even against Pittsburgh, where you could see clearly that he was protected and he still was rushing, making bad throws, making bad decisions. But four picks and they're all his fault. I don't know what else to say there. Now, the Patriots defense, I have to give it to them. They are tough. They're peaking. They're on fire right now. They held Woody Marks 14 carries to 17 yards. They all but eliminated the run game against the Texans. And then the weather has to be a factor as well with the snow, wintry mix or whatever they call it. But CJ Stroud, I think we really have to. The Texans have a really big decision to make now. His fifth option, they have a decision to make this offseason where they're going to pick up his fifth option or not, which is around 25 to 26 million dollars. I expect them to pick that up just because that defense is just so great. You got Will Anderson there, you got DJ Stingley, you have Daniil Hunter there from LSU, DJ Stingley, Daniil Hunter from LSU. Shout out to those guys. But you have a great defense. I don't know if you want to draft a rookie to start the process over, and he's been in the system. I think you give him one last year on his contract, pick up that option, pay him, and just see what you got. But I wouldn't be inclined to extend him because he's just been too inconsistent And I get injuries has played a part into his last 2 years. But this performance, they can't have it. And it was embarrassing. And hopefully, he had a lot of good things to say in the press conference. Hopefully he looks at this offseason and shake back there. So lastly, we have the Rams and the Bears here. The Rams and the Bears, they were tied at 10-10. The story and the high level of the game wasn't the game was an amazing game, first of all. But the most action that you had the Rams up, and then you had the Bears score 10 points in the second quarter. And then they allowed the Rams to wrap up that first half with the field goal, which led to the game being 10-10 at halftime. And outside of that, you just had that amazing throw that Caleb Williams had in the fourth quarter, with it being 4th and 11, backs against the wall, them needing a touchdown to tie it. He threw it 44 yards for a 14-yard passing touchdown to Cole Kmet. I didn't stutter, right? He threw a 44-yard pass for a 14-yard touchdown. It was an amazing play. Please look it up. Almost ran to midfield to just launch it. And it was comparable to the game that he had in the prior weekend, in the opening wildcard weekend on 4th and 4. Didn't even set his feet, just straight arm strength, right on the money for the first down. And the Bears proceeded to win. I think with Caleb Williams, you just see the flashes of how special he can be. And I think that he will be one of the best NFC quarterbacks, if not one of the best quarterbacks in the league when it's all said and done, at least top 5 when it's all said and done, because you see the flash. If he could put it all together, I think that he could be something special. You see the arm strength, you see the accuracy, you see the clutchness that he has. I joke around all the time. It's like he doesn't wake up until the fourth quarter. He's shown that he has ice in his veins. I think that Caleb Williams will be something else going forward. Only his second year, and what a turnaround for Ben Johnson. Shout out to them. They have no reason to hold their heads. They ended up with the number 2 seed. They made it to the divisional round and just got edged out by a veteran in Matthew Stafford and a coach McVay, who's a veteran coach, a great veteran, young veteran coach that was able to seal the deal. But the Bears, when I look at their team, they got Luther Burton, Colston, Loveland. They have Rome Odunze. They have Swift, Monangai, young running back. They are stacked on offense, and they have Ben Johnson, who can conspire a great scheme for this team to be successful. And then you had that quarterback. They had a franchise quarterback, Caleb Williams. I know it hurts to lose that way. When they went into the overtime period, it was just a Puka 16-yard catch. He's done what he's done all season, even though he had, compared to his standard, a very quiet game. Devontae Adams had a questionable catch, mirroring the questionable interception in that Bills-Broncos game, which I do agree. I agree with both calls. I think it was very close with both, but I think with Devontae, that definitely was a catch. And I think with Cooks, when that situation at the end of the game, I know that Bills fans don't want to hear it. I think if you called it an interception on the field, you have to roll with that, because no visual evidence showed that you could overturn that, and which I'm fine with either way. If it was called a catch, I would have been fine. As it was called an interception, I was good with that as well. But back to the Bears, I think they have nothing to hang their head on, and I think that they'll be good in the future. And that'll wrap up everything on the recap that I have. And at what cost? I keep saying it. At what cost? Because when you look at the Bills and the Broncos, of course, the Broncos are excited that they're in the AFC Championship game. But Bo Nix was reported that he broke his ankle and he's out for the rest of the year. So they have to rely on a backup quarterback in Jarrett Stidham going into the AFC Championship game, which they can't feel good about. So some major injuries when you look at it from their perspective in Charbonnet and Bo Nix, and we hope for Bo Nix to have a speedy recovery. He was having a good performance, and you saw him grimacing towards the end of the game, and you just knew that something wasn't right there. But a phenomenal playoff run. It has not been the NFL playoffs that we've known in the past, where it's the Chiefs and everybody else, or it hasn't been, hey, it's the Patriots and everybody else in their run. This is legitimate. It was up in the air. You didn't know who was going to win this playoff run, and it's been phenomenal to watch. Now, we got to get to my predictions, right? We had an FC Championship game between the Patriots and the Broncos. AFC Championship game. And I'm gonna have to go the Patriots here. I know Patriots fans not gonna want to hear this, but they've had the easiest run. They are gonna face a backup quarterback instead of obviously he's the highest backup. He's the highest paid backup in the NFL. However, experience matters when it comes down to this type of game on this type of stage with this at stake. And the gentleman only has four NFL starts, two with the Broncos, two with the Ravens, two with the Raiders, two with the Las Vegas Raiders. And I just don't think that he's gonna be able to overcome that, unfortunately. And then the Patriots defense, it's not like they've been playing horrible. They've been playing lights out in these playoffs, and I expect them to do much the same. So I think the Patriots are going to be in the Super Bowl. So we flip on the other side. We got the NFC Championship game between the Los Angeles Rams and the Seattle Seahawks. They will be in Seattle. And I think that this game is interesting because, first of all, they know each other very well. They are NFC West foes. But on top of that, like I mentioned, Zach Charbonnet is a very important piece to their offense. So Kenneth Walker is going to have to be the bell cow. Now, I'm not saying Kenneth Walker is not capable of being the bell cow. Had a phenomenal game against the 49ers. However, Charbonnet is a big piece of what they do offensively. So I'm interested to see how that happens. Now, like I said, the Rams can be diced up, and they allowed Caleb Williams to throw 257 yards and two touchdown passes. Jackson Smith and Jigba is going to have a phenomenal game. Sam Darnold's going to have to put it on point, and I think that they will be able to do that. It will be close, but I got to go with the Rams, and that will leave our Super Bowl matchup, which is the McVay Revenge Bowl, right? Because back in 2019, obviously the Patriots, I think that was Tom Brady and Belichick's last Super Bowl to win together. They knocked off the Rams and Sean McVay back then. So maybe this will be an opportunity for Sean McVay to get a little revenge. As I have the Rams winning it all, but it will be an interesting matchup. And I'm interested in seeing it, and I cannot wait until this weekend until it unfolds there. So, on second thought, as promised, there's been a couple coaching moves in the NFL and a couple new faces in new places. You got Robert Saleh. He was the former defensive coordinator for the San Francisco 49ers this past year. And prior to that, he was with the New York Jets. Look, I think the verdict is still out on him. Is he a good head coach or not? But I don't think that judging him off for staying in the New York with the New York Jets is fair enough. That franchise is a mess. It's been a mess. I feel sorry for Coach Aaron Glenn because eventually they'll be looking for another scapegoat in him and understanding if he's a good head coach or not. So we'll see fresh blood. He has his quarterback in Cam Ward, who showed flashes this past season as a rookie. So we'll see what he's able to do in Tennessee. And then you have Coach John Harbaugh talked about that a couple podcasts ago about what we felt like he was ending up. But the New York Giants, they've had a rough go at it for the past few seasons. But I tell you this, they got Jackson Dart, who's shown promise in his rookie year as a quarterback, mobile guy. And then you have Malik Neighbors, who's a stud receiver out of shout out to him, an LSU guy. And you have Scatterboo, who's a running back. He'll be back by week one, hopefully coming off an injury in his rookie year. But you have something to work with. And we have some guys on the defensive end. It's a talented team. So I think that either out of the coaching situations that were available outside of the Bills, which we didn't know about prior to this past Sunday, Atlanta and the New York Giants, I think those were the best jobs to take with just from a talent perspective. Speaking of the Atlanta Falcons, you had Kevin Stefanski, former Cleveland Browns coach, took over in Atlanta, which I mentioned, very talented. You have one of the best running backs in the game, if not the best running back in the game. You have Drake London, who's an outstanding receiver. You have a lot of talent on the offensive side as well as the defensive side. Hey, I mentioned on the other pass, Stefanski is a multi-time coach, NFL coach of the year. He's led that Browns team to some playoff runs. He's a good coach. So I'm interested to see what he's able to do in Atlanta, and we'll see what's happening. But as I mentioned, it's a lot of movement with the coaches. And as I kept alluding to, Coach McDermott was let go from the Buffalo Bills, with which he went 98-50 with the Buffalo Bills and had an 8-8 playoff record. My thoughts on that is just he just couldn't get over the hump, and multiple runs at the divisional round and couldn't quite get the job done. And I think that the Bills were just ready to have that type of success. They feel like they have an outstanding quarterback, and which a former MVP quarterback, and have all the talent in the world to get it done, and he just couldn't get it done. I do think he's an outstanding coach, but after 8 seasons, maybe it's time to not. Maybe it's time for a new scenery, and I'm sure he won't be on the coaching circuit for that long. However, we'll see what happens in the future. But I appreciate everybody for rocking with me this long. Again, the Opinionated Benchwarmers. You can find us on O_Benchwarmers on all social media platforms. Make sure that you're subscribed to the podcast wherever you like to listen to your podcast at. And we're also on YouTube. Just hit the bell, subscribe on YouTube, and get notified when we drop this great content. Until next time, I'm out of here.
Here's a standing note for the Opinionated Benchwarmers.